See a lot of friendly faces out in the crowd. It's good to see a crowd again. It's good to be at the Texas Pinball Festival again. Man, did I miss this? I don't know about you guys, but this is great. I've seen so many great friends today, just today alone. I'm looking forward to the rest of the weekend. While I'm on that note there, thanks to Ed and Kim and all these wonderful volunteers, Pam, the guys that do the IT and streaming over here. It's really cool. If you see these people that work at the show, walk up to them and tell them thank you. You know, shake their hand. It's a big deal, and it means a lot to them because it's kind of a thankless task. Everybody just goes about their way and they forget about the people who made all this possible. So please, every time you see somebody this weekend that's working the show, give them a pat on the back and a heartfelt thanks because, yeah, where else could we all get together and enjoy a pinball? I mean, it's great. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Butch Peel. I'm working at Chicago Gaming Company. I've almost been there 2 years now. It's crazy because most of it was during COVID. My title there is the lead service engineer, which means basically that I'm looking at the games as we're developing them, as we're producing them, as we're showing them, and looking for ways to improve them and make them more maintainable, repairable, reliable, those sorts of things. I'm not too big on titles myself. If I have to tell you what I do for the company with my title, then I need to step it up a little bit because you should know what I do. So well, that's more than enough about me. Let's get started talking about the game. I got a lot of things I want to show you here. I think you're going to be really impressed. I know I'm excited about this. I love this company and the detail and all the things that go on here. So let's get going. So first of all, calling Cactus Canyon a remake is a little bit of a stretch, right? Because, you know, it's hard to remake something that was actually never finished to begin with. So the game, when it was on the line, was pulled. The production... Yeah. Whatever I just said, production, is that a magic word? No, okay. All right. Yeah, the production for Cactus Canyon was even truncated because Williams just decided midstream, you know, we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to do something else. The priorities are going to shift. Get a little closer, maybe? We can do that. So their priorities shifted, and immediately everybody just kind of dropped their tools and we're done, you know, whenever the last one came off the line. So you have assets, you have game artwork, you have all these schematics, you have all of these assembly drawings, things like that. It wasn't really a big deal to preserve a lot of that because everyone knew walking out of there that was going to be an end of an era. This was a big deal that was happening during this game. So the software was really never finished. The rules never implemented. They had tons of commented out code, things like that. So first thing we needed was if you're going to put all this effort into the hardware, the software needs to work. And it needs to work completely. It needs to be a full game. So we went out and found out that the best of all time was available. And Lyman Sheets, the late, great Lyman Sheets Jr., we brought him in. I could list all the amazing, fun, cool games that Lyman's worked on, but I only have an hour here, unfortunately. Let's just, you know, remember Lyman as not only a great designer, but also a kind and a sincere human being. And he's going to be missed by all of us. It's a very sad thing. At CGC, we're all very honored to be producing Lyman's last game. While I'm talking about the code status here, let's talk about the extended code, because this is what everybody wants to know about, right? We mentioned this, we brought it up, we announced it sometime back, or even around the time that the game itself was coming out. And this was planned from the very beginning as an upgrade kit, and that is it will have a hardware component. It will have a mechanism that comes with it. And it's not just simply a software upgrade. Sorry, the bathroom's that way. Okay, there you go. So Josh Sharp and our other software with, Sam Zare. We're working closely with Lyman on the rules and the code. Josh Moore with the rules and Sam Moore with the code. And Sam Zare is no slouch himself. There would be no remake games without Sam Zare. He did everything from A to Z in all of our games. He worked on all the dot stuff. He worked on the simulated stuff up front. And when we got our own operating system going here recently, with Cactus Canyon being the first game that has our own operating system in it, he's been vital in all of those endeavors. So Josh actually is a pinball historian. I mean, how couldn't you be with who his dad is, as well as a passionate player. He talked with the original designers, he and Lyman, and they wanted to ensure that the completed code and the extended code that was already being planned at that time would be consistent with these guys that designed the game's vision for the game. We wanted it to feel natural, we wanted it to be natural, and we wanted it to work well and like they originally envisioned it. That was the whole plan. So Josh and Lyman were talking pretty much daily about the project, and they worked on this marksman code. This is a fine example of their collaboration process. So this is a note out of Lyman's notebook from 12/3/2020. They're talking about Josh's idea, so that's what the Josh here, I'm going to use this as a pointer, so that I'd like to use my laser pointer, but it wouldn't come through on the stream, so I'm going to use this guy here. But this means that that was Josh's idea. This is more of a Josh and Lyman sort of thing, so it was important to give proper credit, even in the notebook. Details guy, Lyman, I love this stuff. So he's going to light 3 jackpot shots, and he's going to have one dim shots around it and one bright shot that allows the mode to continue, and the dim shots will end the mode. So if you're not a marksman and you miss a shot, then you're done with the mode. You're obviously not a marksman. You shouldn't even continue. So we're talking even in these early days, you can see that the CGC base here is the original completed Cactus Canyon code, and the LFS update was going to be the extended code that Lyman was already thinking about, even when all of these things were going on. So he had the way it was going to be open-ended, and you'd have one shot on Lyman's. More specifics on the shot, he started thinking about some other notes here and writing those down and things that you might be able to collect with it. So now here's from the notebook where they actually started fleshing all this out and putting some meat on the skeleton. So had all these different ideas of all these cool things that they could shoot at, and shoot a hole through a CD, through shoot a hangman's rope, or a coffee pot, or rattlesnake, and all of those. You see them crossed out. That's probably not a good idea. Money hanging from a rope, but yeah, use a rifle, big and powerful sound. Had to be loud. Right? A watermelon hanging from a rope, no, that's no good. But then there's this Silverado scene of the guys shooting the spines off of a cactus at some distance away. And so he goes into this. This is now how it's important to mention all this stuff. This is what Lyman wanted for this mode. This is just one little part, and it's actually in the game now. Because as Josh puts it, it's one of the things that he came up with that Lyman thought didn't suck. So that was a good thing, right? So the scene has got some cactus swaying in the wind from that same movie. That's another desert scene, and there's like a heavy wind blowing. So he's showing all this, that when the wind blows left to right, these cactus need to all lean in that same direction. And he's writing all this down, and then we have this transition to when the wind changes direction. So it's matching the direction of the shot. Shot moves on the playfield. The bright one's moving left to right. The cactus should be blowing in that direction on the screen, right? Then when it gets to the right side of the playfield and it needs to go back right to left, it, for a moment, stops and they all stand straight up. And then you start moving everything back to the right. And he's, don't forget which direction the dust and wind is blowing and those kind of things. He makes notes of all this stuff, details, including writing the same text for each one, just changing the word left and right. It's amazing, the attention to detail. All this stuff on the animation was going to happen. He was going to put the instructions off on the left-hand side. Now he even goes into so far as to taking clips from the movie and to be worried about licensing. It probably needs to be changed slightly so it doesn't look exactly the same as the cactus. Boy, everybody's seen those cactus in Silverado, right? So now he even goes up in here and scribbles out one of these. I don't want my cactus to look that way. It should just have these big lobes, right? Okay? And this is the needles and the explosion happen from these chunks in close-up. So, and then it makes even a note of the background. The background in this can be other types. This, well, you know, what are those called? Well, I'll just draw one. It's a saguaro cactus, actually. If he lived in the desert like me, he'd know that. But then he's gonna look in a close-up of each of the left shot's gonna take a little chunk out of here, and it makes the spine blow off, and the needle is destroyed and removed. And then he's going to show you on the right side. He actually takes freeze frames here that show the bullet coming in here and hitting and taking a chunk out of the cactus, and he's circling this little area. That's where it's going to hit, on these little ends here. So very detail-oriented. And then the last one, you got to hit this cactus, and you got to hit it down here in the middle here. And if you hit it up here somewhere or something else, you know, if this screen animation wasn't exactly how he drew it, I could just see him throwing a fit over it. So that's pretty cool. And of course, you know, then the last shot, if you make the third shot and you've hit all three, you're a real marksman, and the cactus explodes into chunks and reveals the score afterwards. Pretty cool stuff. And so when we look at the rules for the extended code, they're in pretty good shape. The development implementation of them has gone pretty far along. As Josh put it when I talked to him last week, he said, you know, they work from the start button forward. So everything at the first part of the modes that most of us, you know, mere mortal pinball players will see are all pretty much done. It's the wizard stuff, the whiz-bang stuff at the very end of the mode that has yet to be done. So it's in pretty good shape. It's pretty mature. One thing we all wanted to make sure, you know, that we mention here is that we are committed to getting this project done. Josh is moving through that list of things that aren't complete. He's going line by line and making sure that we know what's left to be done, that he and Lyman talked about, that he and Lyman agreed upon. And it's really important to us that we get this project to the finish line, and all of us, top to bottom in CGC, are committed to doing just that. And we want it not only to get done because of how this ended with Lyman, but you know, we want it to get done the way Lyman would have wanted it to be done. That's as equally important to us. So now we go back to our hardware, right? So when you're looking at a game and you're going to remake one, even the normal standard remake stuff, you know, we're starting to have a history of doing those sorts of things. You're going to look at the existing Cactus Canyon game, and you're going to look for mechanics, electronics, play issues from the original game. And we really don't want to remake that part of it. We want it to play better than it did before. We want it to work better than it did before. If it has a nagging issue that drives people crazy, we don't want to do that either. So we want to make sure it works better. And then, of course, we're going to do our thing, and we're going to come up with some cool new features to add to the game, cool ways to add lighting to it, different sounds. We're going to use our big displays and all those kind of things. It's going to be quite an eye grabber, you know. And then, if you haven't noticed, we're kind of on a quality ramp here at CGC. We started with Medieval Madness Remake. We move up to Attack from Mars Remake, Monster Bash Remake, and the MMR Royal. So the pressure was really on to get Cactus Canyon to be better than all of the ones before. And that's really all about details. And Doug, my boss at Chicago Gaming, is a detail-oriented guy. And I'm a detail guy, so I really love all this, you know, doing the things that make a game that much better. And some of the things you'll never even notice, then some of them will be noticed on the first time you look at it. And I just love that depth of detail in a game, and I know Doug does too. So what are we going to address on Cactus Canyon? Well, we got our first commandment to deal with there. We shall not ever play with the playfield artwork or the layout. You're not going to see anything move, no posts are moved, no holes are made bigger or smaller, no changes to the artwork. The inserts are all just like they were originally, and we're going to use LEDs to make that look like they originally saw it with incandescent lights, but that much brighter and cooler with LEDs. Cabinet artwork, that's going to be one of the first things we're going to look at. So we added some things to the Cactus Canyon artwork. again, finding those detailed high fidelity originals was difficult, so we had to clean up a lot of what we could find. And you know, the standard Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop user now can do that like crazy. You know, the power is right there at the palm of your hands, and it's nothing like it was back in the 90s when this game came out. You're going to have to adjust and correct colors, and it's really important that they take advantage of the new capabilities in creating back glasses, translights, inserts, you know, cabinet artwork, the you know, playfield areas. All those are going to be really important. So we're going to use new durable materials, and we're going to design some new inner cabinet art blades. That's one of the first things we're going to do. So it didn't have these to begin with, but now we do. We made them of these real highly glossy, very slick, but very durable too, so that you don't just get your playfield one time crooked and you wipe out half of one of these cactus or something, right? So I'm going to take you around a little view of the inside. We're going to start looking at where the left flipper comes into the cabinet, and we're going to work our way around just to show you how this artwork has been incorporated and brought into the back panel that was existing before and went down the other side. So there's up the left side a little bit further. Now we come into the back panel. Then we start down the right side and all the way back to the right flipper. And you'll see the colors. You wouldn't know that this wasn't in there originally. That's the whole idea, to make it look seamless, to make it match, to make some of it reflective. You know, it's just really cool. What else to address? So the original, as I mentioned a moment ago, I got a little ahead of myself. The incandescent lighting in the game, we're going to change to LEDs. And with that, now the materials, the manufacturing materials for translights, playfield plastics, and things like that are going to be very important. You want to complement that new color, use it properly. We're not going to bulletize, you know, and make real bright spots and wash out the artwork that's originally there. So here's your original Cactus Canyon translight, and this is what we did to it. And you can see what happens there. I mean, if we were to take this original translight that had to be, you know, remember, this is incandescent lights. It had to be kind of washed out. It had to be very transparent looking, because the lights would just not have done anything to this translight. They wouldn't have even come through. So when you can bright light it behind with LEDs, now you can enrich those colors, and you can increase this saturation and get a lot better translucence because you're applying so much light. And then you can also do things like the ramp decals. Now you're lighting those from behind too, so the same thing. You know, the colors from the original, the colors in the remake. Artwork's the same. It's just you can bring the color up a couple of notches, and it's really dramatic. RGB general illumination. So we're adding RGB to the entire playfield so we can change the whole playfield background as we please. This is the original Cactus Canyon, and you see down in here the general illumination bulbs are these guys here. And then this is what we do with the remake. So we put in our GI assembly, which is just a single screw and a connector to it and 4 pins running around. So that's much more modular, and you don't have to solder anything. If one of those lights goes out, you just pop that connector off, take that one screw out, punch a new one in, plug it back in, and you're good to go again. Whereas this guy, you had, you know, wires to catch and break and get caught in the side of the cabinet and get sawed off, all those kinds of things. This will be a much cleaner solution. We also added clear jet bumper caps because we're putting a RGB LED in all of the pop bumpers. So those jet bumpers need a clear cap now so that they don't make everything that teal color of the original game. So we play with it. We break our rules a little bit here and there, but nothing dramatic with the playfield for sure. Back panel is going to get an RGB LED strip going across the back so that we can light up that back area a lot better. So more to address. We're going to modernize the game electronics. We're going to change the CPU, controller, driver boards, those sorts of things, and bring them up to date so we're not running off of old Williams boards with through-hole components and that are no longer made and dead-ended years and years ago. So we're going to take under playfield multi-purpose PCBs that are already on Williams games, like the 10 driver opto boards and the motor controller boards, and we just kind of put them all into our major boards here, these multi-purpose print circuit boards. So there's your original game, and you can see in this spot here, here's one of those mounted at a 90-degree angle, that 8 or 10 opto driver board. You got motor controller boards, you got all the original little light boards, and we're going to just put one big board that has the LEDs mounted on it, and it has little short wires that come off of there, and we're going to go to try and eliminate this sort of spaghetti around the feature lights, the GI lights, which are back under here, the switches and all around it, and no diodes on our games. So you don't have to worry about when you put a micro switch or one of these leaf switches in there, which wire you connect it to. And if there's something wrong with that, it's a 2-pin connector back here to pull a switch generally. Some of them have multiple switches on the same line, but it's 2 pins, a black and a white wire going back to one of those main boards. And that's a lot easier to keep up with. We do speaker updates these days with with the upgraded speakers and the low cost of them and all. It's not really hard to outdo the old Williams speakers that they had in the games. They were pretty low end speakers. So we're putting in big old subwoofers that could eat their speakers and making a lot better sound. And then we're going to add our Color XL high density display, high definition display, and we're taking the original dot matrix work and we're colorizing it, and we're making more dots per old single dot, so we can get higher resolution images, and those are completely redone. I mean, that's all new stuff. You have a general low resolution picture that was on there before, and we're going to take it, colorize it, and make it just look amazing. And we did tons of these for the game, and more on this game than others, because this game didn't even have a lot of the scenes that you're used to, like this beer mug champion. There's 6 new champion, keep your initials on the game things that'll show in attract mode and let you enter your initials for, like the Bionic Bart and all those kinds of things. We'll have a champion now, whoever did the best against them, and it'll show. So just in that one area, there's 6 brand new screens. You get a lot of things like in this game, they would just show when you shot the beer mug and the beer mug fly up, you would just hear Dooley say, "Hey, stop shooting up my drink," and you wouldn't see anything. You'd just see, hey, you shot, beer mug, one beer mug, 12 more to do something, right? Well, now we put an animation across there, and you see literally a bullet going through his beer and shattering it, and him doing his talk, and you actually see it. And then like the game over screen, again, Lyman details. If you happen to, you better be able to rescue Polly once during this game somewhere, because she's always in peril, that girl, hanging out on the railroad tracks and in the banks when it's being robbed, and on a canoe going over waterfall, all that kind of thing. If you save her once in your game over screen, our hero carries her off into the sunset. How cool is that? So what else are we going to address? More yet. Drop target. Now this is a biggie. The drop target is the single most important feature in my mind in Cactus Canyon. I think it was in Doug's also, because we put a lot of work into this guy. It's critical to the game. You got 4 bad guys that pop up. How fun is it when your bad guy pops up and then he falls right back down before you can even shoot him? How frustrating is it when your bad guy pops up and you smack him dead on and it just rejects and you don't get credit for it? And how frustrating is it to hit your drop target and have the ball go flying up over the ramp somewhere and land in Bart's hat somewhere? That's not supposed to happen. You should get control. When you make a shot, you should be rewarded with control of the ball after that shot. And so we would like it to hit, deaden the impact, and let the ball roll back to your flipper like it should. It goes down when it's supposed to. It stays up when it's supposed to. That's very important. So the drop target design, originally for Williams games, this is not in Cactus Canyon original, but in original Williams games, this is what they used to use. The old Indiana Jones, the Star Trek The Next Generations, that had a single drop target that they needed to be able to knock down. All this elaborate extra coil here, a mini coil, and it had to have it had to be part of your coil, low power coils, and be running through your solenoids as well as your main one for resetting the target, setting it up. And then this elaborate arm with a magnet thing on here so they could pull that in and knock the target down through this little hole here. And you know, any of this stuff gets bent and doesn't work right, it's really bad. A micro switch with a blade, it looks like it's that long on it, right? Going all across the back of that thing. When this fin drops down, it's supposed to sit on top of that. People get confused when they find this. The little screws have vibrated out, and this ends up in the bottom of the cabinet floor. And your micro switch is just hanging. Happens all the time. What's this little piece of plastic for? It was intended to keep, you know, that micro switch safe from other things. All this work, you know, for this one drop target assembly, it was very, very extravagant. So Williams even saw that and said, why don't we try and change that when we do Cactus Canyon? If you're gonna have 4 of these, let's redo the drop target assembly. Oh, what a great idea, except the idea wasn't so great. Now we've got this single coil that got rid of one of the coils, which is, yeah, that when the bosses, I'm sure, put their thumbs up and said, yeah, great job, because that saved a lot of money. But this entire carriage here now has to come up, and it's bringing this drop target with it, because the drop target's sitting on this back shelf back here. So it brings the drop target up, and then they have to pulse this coil over and over again to keep it in the up position. You don't want to fire it and keep it up there. You got to fire it to bring it up, and then you've got to pulse it to hold it up so that you don't melt the coil down. And then all of this time, waiting for somebody to come along and hit it. And if they knock it down, then they've got a micro switch back here that triggers on that same part of the drop target. But look at all the elaborate mess here now to hold the drop target at the proper level so that it doesn't stick up or fall below the playfield surface level and have a ball trap or a ball that, you know, elevate a ball when it hits it. They've got all this extra stuff down here to adjust the height of not only this, but the drop target itself. Yeah, it turned into a mess. And what ended up happening is over time, because these got fired and held so many times, they got hot anyway, and they just couldn't hold anymore, and they would drop the drop target, or when they went to kick, it didn't have enough strength to knock it up, and it would kind of wiggle up and then fall back down. Very frustrating. So we completely redesigned the entire drop target assembly, and we used a lot of the original. The bracket here pretty much is the original from the old Williams drop target, which is nice. The reset plate, everything in that was very similar. The plunger, all that stuff was the same. The springs, all those things. And the mounting brackets, the coil retaining brackets. But what we did is put a tube solenoid in here that then just fires straight back, pokes through a hole in there, and just punches the target down. And it's a very low voltage, 12 volts. You can run that off of this little board on the back. And we wanted to make something modular, something small, something that was all self-contained, didn't have a lot of big long arms sticking out for things to catch on and have problems with, and then where you could just disconnect a connector here and a connector there and pull the whole thing out. And it brought with it the LEDs that backlight the drop target in this case, and we even made a modification in this to allow us to mount a light board up here so that we can actually light up the insert that's inevitably in front of a drop target in a pinball machine all the time. And always have this weird thing from the old days trying to get a light into that little thing and stretch over this, and yeah, it was difficult. So we did an all new retract solenoid opto switch now we did for the switch itself now. So this is a U-shaped opto. Now that fin goes up between there, it stops. We know that the drop target's in the up position. When it unbreaks the opto can see again, and we know the drop target's been knocked down. That's very easy. And RGB LEDs behind it so that we can light it, make it whatever color we want. And of course, what comes with that then, if you're going to backlight it and you're going to do it below the playfield like we're doing, you need the translucence of the drop target to help you out and carry some of that light up above the playfield. And it's a really neat effect. So it lights up the whole thing from underneath, and it travels up through the clear polycarbonate wedge top now, anti-lofted now, clear drop target. So what we did to anti-loft is tilt the face forward quite a bit, so that when the ball hits it, it ricochets back into the playfield. It does not use it as a ramp to fly up into the air. And the wedge stop's also important because if you look at the original game, they used those little tombstone-like targets, and they didn't fill the hole in the playfield very well. They continued to cut holes like they did for their old wedge top rollover type drop targets. So we brought that back, except we made the face forward. And these are the kind of things that we're working on that make this game so cool. And they take a lot of time. This one was a real bear to get it to work just like we wanted it to. You get most of it, but then you would have a couple of little things that were bothering you. And last thing, we had to change some spotting underneath so that the mechanism would attach because it had different attachment points as the other. And we added, you can't even see it here, but a clear mylar all the way around this to keep the wear on the playfield down, which is another thing. We don't want your playfield wearing out. We put too much effort into those playfields. And what we ended up coming up with, I think, looks pretty doggone good. RGB LED, you can light them red, you can light them green, you can light them any old color, you can do anything you want. More to address. Two bank targets, left and right on the game. There's two on either side for the lighting quick draw. And we added RGB LED backlights to those. So again, we made them out of that clear polycarbonate. And what a difference, huh? Oops. Inductive ball sensors were added. So in the original game, we had 4 reed switches and 4 ramp micro switches that we replaced with our own design inductive sensors. So in this close up here, we're looking underneath the playfield in front of the mine entrance here. That's what the original game had, was these 2 reed switches. What we put in was a single inductive sensor PCB that mounts up into the hole there. So much cleaner installation there. They had another one up here. If you look underneath this little insert looking thing underneath the ramp, that's an exit to the pop bumpers. We need to know when the ball exits the pop bumpers through this route. So that was done with a reed switch back in the day. We added another little single inductive sensor under there. Micro switches, these are real savings because you don't have to run these wires up on top of your ramp, all the way around your ramp, all that kind of stuff. We just replaced that with inductive sensor. And in this case even, put it underneath the new decal that we made for the ramp. The original decal didn't have a ramp decal, or the original ramp didn't have a decal on it. So we took, while we're doing that, we put a decal on, and we're able to put a sensor there and there, whereas the original had a reed switch underneath here and a micro switch on top of there. We were able to put them both on and put them underneath, and all you see are the little screws, you know, and cleverly, because we're lighting this from behind, this is what Doug would call a slick fix, is the artwork even works along with us. Oh my goodness, what did I do? That's what I was afraid of. Are we still there? Oh, I hate touchpads. I told them, yeah, I gotta have my mouse. The artwork works with us. So you've got a bank here. This is a bank robbery shot. So we made the bank vault blowing up and made it black and put it on top of one of these. And then the lid to the vault came off on the other side, and it's underneath the other one. So that's slick. Micro switch over there on the left side, replaced by an inductive sensor and a clear ramp. And even when you see it, you don't really see it that much. It's much more unobtrusive. So these are what they look like when you look at the sensors themselves. And this here is the driver board for it. So we plug in the sensors all the way around. This can cover up to 10 sensors. And the important thing here is no potentiometer. You don't have to adjust these by way, you know, and watch them get it where they don't work again. You have to go adjust till the little red light goes off. These are digital sensors. So all of these adjustments, if you want to make any to your sensors, can be done through your menus section in your settings. So that's really cool. Still more to address. The new motor drive assemblies. No one likes the old gears and stuff that are on the old Williams and Bally games, the Monster Bashes, you know, bringing the table up and all. There was a couple of sets of those in this game that we decided when we did that in Monster Bash, we'd do it here too. And that's getting rid of that, making it a direct drive motor, and all it doesn't have any of those gears anymore, which are some of the more problematic things here. Those teeth break off of those gears, and then you have to try and buy these, and you stack them, and there's like 4 or 5 of them there on top of one another. It's so elaborate, that design. So much cleaner. And they did the same thing under the playfield. This is what drove the mine. And we had a little circuit board issue on our original game too. Somebody made them a circuit board. I love it. Pinball. There's what we come up with to take its place. So much cleaner. Don't have to worry about dirt and things getting inside there, debris, a wire getting caught up in those gears. Much better design. Still more to address. This is where we really shine, is with the replacement and addition sculptures that we put on the game. So you have Bart, head and hat. That's the original Bart character, made out of a kind of a rubbery vinyl material. Tell me that doesn't just scream at you, replace me. Okay, yeah, no, that's what we did. Well, we thought, first maybe if we just made him look a little less like he belonged on a Saturday morning cartoon show, added some antiquing to him, brought out, and the details there's quite a bit of details in the original sculpt, but they just don't show up in this way of painting it, right? But, that still didn't do what we wanted to do. So we come up with a much better. Boy, he looks mean now. He looks like somebody that got his unibrow going there. That's pretty good. I love it. Mine entrance. So this was a flimsy, like vacuum formed piece of plastic that I took a picture to put in here, but I was starting to have picture overload. But right around here is all cracked and broken because it just, anytime it wasn't flat and you tried to force it to be flat with a washer, it broke and it cracked and it dries. In my dry climate where I live, that's a really bad thing because they get really fragile. So we replaced it with that. And the material is like 10 times thicker than the original. It's got flex to it, it's got give to it, so when a ball hits it really hard, it gives a little bit. It doesn't want to just snap like that. And then, of course, you paint it up and make it look a lot nicer, too. So that's pretty cool. And just for fun, because we like to do this sort of thing, we can light that hole from underneath. And now it's green and red and tells you when to shoot it and it can change with modes and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very cool. Die-cast metal train that we put on. This is the original sad little plastic vacuum form type train that they had to begin with. And we replaced it with a fully metal die-cast train that just sparkles. So yeah, that's a bit of a difference. Very nice. Oh, and the gun handles. Who hasn't ripped off or broken their handles? This one is even broken right down here. You can see the trigger guard is broken on this one, and usually the barrels were broken off because you're trying to clean your game and you catch a rag on that, snap. Yeah, now you got a Derringer instead of a pistol, just that fast. And those are going to be on all games, so that's not just an LE feature. This is shown on an LE, but those same pistols are put on the other arches as well. So it's just gorgeous, and it's fully 3D and stand up to the test of time. We put some cactuses or cacti. I live in the desert Southwest, and I don't even know the subtle difference there. There's more than one cactus up on the corner. Let's just go with that. And we added a mine cart and a track because the ball eject out of the mine comes out of this long black chute here, and they just painted it black in the original game, and it still looks that way on our special edition game too. But we added a track to go over the LE version of that. And we added, on top of the track that already existed on the mine cart, on the mine hole here, we added a little cart going across there for the LE version again, too. These are LE only features. And then we added the train track timbers underneath the train that go all the way across here. And the ball actually goes across there, too. And so that looks pretty cool, too. It makes the train track look like it's supposed to, 2 metal pieces with wood underneath. Again, an LE only feature on that one. Still more to address. This game really gets you excited. New artwork. Oh, now let's see here. What did we do here? So we have a plastic in the original game, and this is actually there. It's almost like it was scrap. You can tell they took scrap pieces off and they used it to prevent a ball trap from occurring back behind in this area, keep the balls from jumping up into this area and getting stuck. But it looked very unfinished. It didn't have anything. It didn't look like it belonged in the game. It looked like somebody dropped a piece of clear plastic in there and left it. So we added artwork to it. A little guy at the train station taking a bath there. This little pistol next to him in case he gets bushwhacked while he's in the bath. We had a ramp in the upper right corner, as I mentioned earlier, that was completely no artwork. You look right into the back part of the playfield up there. Nothing interesting. Well, we took and added all this really cool artwork underneath because this is the bank shot again, so stealing money from the bank and bullets flying up, just big difference there, and it looks great on the game. Even more to address. Stunning new bottom arches. This is where the LE really shines too, but that's our original. This is the SE and the SE Plus bottom arch. Still very nice. I like the little denim scorecards and the denim in this, and this is more of a dark gray than the original. Obviously, got quite a bit difference in color there, but it just looks right. And this is the LE. This is the one we're really proud of. That's a full metal badge down here with your limited edition number on here. That's an laser etched wood, real piece of wood there. When you grab it in the center and lift that center arch, it is solid. And you got real metal card holders here on the corners of the thing to hold all your scorecards and all that. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Here's one of those little details things there. Details. This is what a laser etched corner looks like after it comes off the laser. Obviously, it does a little more burning than you'd care to. So this is like a multi-step process. You got to take that out. You got to line it up just perfectly, get the laser etched pattern put on it. And that's after a ton of already done woodwork. You can tell, drilling and all these kinds of things. Sand it down now to get that nice and smooth afterwards and to take away the excess burn. And now stain it, seal it, and then attach it to all these other parts. And this is another really cool detail. I've seen this over and over and over again since I started working with CGC, and I just love it, the attention to detail. Here is a bullet and another bullet. These are going to keep the ball, they serve a purpose as well as being decorative. They prevent a ball trap coming up, ball rolling up over the top and ending up stuck in the glass there, which is a very bad one. So we got one bullet standing up and another one laying down here. So we're going to attach that to this with a screw from up underneath, right? And so if you put that on top of the metal arch and you just had a hole there and you started screwing it in, what's going to happen when it gets tight? It's going to spin and it's going to mess up your powder coat. If you get it on here and you spin, it's going to put a rut in your wood, right? So you actually go in and you add a little oval here to both of those designs. Now that bullet lays in that little oval trench and it locks itself in when you screw it down. It doesn't move, and it never will. That's the important part. That never is going to get loose over time and scratch your valuable bottom arch. I just love that kind of stuff. So while we're on the bottom arches and you're going to make these big guns and put them up on there, we need to lower it down a little bit. So we lowered that profile of that arch quite a bit, as you can see. Came down quite a bit. You also notice in the shooter lane, see the metal there that they used to hold down the auto launch underneath and then actually hold the end of the ramp here too. Now you've got wood and metal here that makes for a very dangerous break opportunity right there with the plastic. If you just extend that wooden rail down, it looks better, it works better. And yeah, those are the sort of things that we feel comfortable changing. Yep, there's even more to address. Sound and music work. We did a lot of sound work. Get caught up. I'm having to do my notes on one side here. Oh, let's see. So yeah, this game has a lot of music that was in the original game, that a lot of things and sounds that were commented out that weren't there. A lot of new sounds because we're making new dot matrix animations and things like that we needed new sound effects for. And so, yeah, a lot of cleaned up sounds and a lot of discovered sounds in the commented code, a lot of new things. There were actually a bunch of original call-outs. It was kind of like a hidden treasure we found in the commented out section. It was very cool. New call-outs and music as needed. And now, of course, on this game, this is the first, oddly enough, Cactus Canyon, a very special game for all these different things, but it was the first remake game we've made that actually has a ball shooter. So the other ones were all push button, launch the ball. This one's got a ball shooter. And so why bother with a, pretend looking plastic end on this one when you can put a real steel ball on the end of it? So that's an actual pinball that's ground down, and it's pretty cool. I like it. And last, but certainly not least, we got the interactive, integrated Cactus Canyon topper. And yeah, this thing is pretty amazing. You got windows back here. This is a very complex, I'm going to show you in a minute the assembly drawings for this. It's so many parts in it, so much. But in a nutshell, each of these windows has a printed plastic, like a playfield plastic, like a sling plastic, but in the shape of the windows there. And they're all put in here in the windows with a backlight behind them. So they have a board that has an L on it like that, and it's got LEDs shining down so it can edge light a piece of acrylic that sits in front of it, as well as backlight the plastic that has the person on it. So you can kind of see faint outlines here of what the skull and crossbones that will be edge lit. So you light it green or red, whether you did good or bad, when you shot the person in that window, whether that person was pointing a gun at you or just was holding a bouquet of flowers or something like that, right? So lots of LEDs. We built a Topper 3 board for this that just, we built it specifically for Cactus Canyon and beyond to have extra capability. And we ended up using every single light control output on it, every single way to control things on it. It just blew up and became really crazy. Of course, Bart has arms, he has motors, so both arms move independent of one another. It's got magnetic sensors so they can tell when his gun is in the low position or versus the high position underneath it. It's got a knockback feature, so he can, you got me, partner, by pulling him back. Just a coil back there to pull him back. These are some of the drawings I did for the documentation. Just showing how to run the individual light cables that go to all those different windows. Another one of those little detail things, the plastics for all the different characters all have a unique shape, height, width, something like that that makes it where you cannot put the wrong character in the wrong window at the factory. So just another really cool thing the way we do stuff at CGC. This shows how all the wiring goes back and forth. There's actually a big couple of circuit boards mounted behind a couple of the buildings there, and all the wiring, all the lights, all the boards, all the PCBs. This is the wiring diagram that I put together for it. It's, block diagram. It's crazy. This is just the topper, There's nothing else here. There's the Topper 3 board in the middle here, and all of the satellite boards and motors and things like that run. And they told me this, give me all of the 3D drawings, and I got to make my own, maneuver them around and make them, explode them in the way I wanted. And Sean, one of the guys that works at CGC there, handed me the drawings, and he says, you may have to put this on more than one drawing. And I'm like, I did the Pirates of the Caribbean rocking ship all on one. It was a lot of parts, but this ain't my first rodeo, buddy. But when I did this, though, I had to do 8 different assembly, 8 of them, to get all of this stuff. There were just so many things from so many different angles, and you couldn't show them all together. It would have been and even then, I've got all these lines crossing, which drive a guy like me crazy. But it's the best way I could think of to make it go together, and it's just so many parts and so much stuff. It's just incredible. So, I know you guys all want to know this. What's taking so long? Why have I had to wait this long for my game? Well, Cactus Canyon was played for the first time by the public in Expo of 2021, and then again at IAPA 2021, and Free Play Florida right after that. And they were played very heavily, and we were just overjoyed with the positive effect that it had on people. We had people come up at IAPA, people from all over the world saying, this is the funnest game I play all day. And you're like, that's great. That is so cool. But we noted some issues. A lot of people didn't notice what we saw. But you could play the game and you didn't notice. But if you were standing back and you knew how it's supposed to work and you knew how that should have done something a little different, yeah, what it does is very dazzling and all that, but we missed that last little part. So we saw that there were still some drop target issues. We were still having problems with those things breaking every once in a while and not going down when they were supposed to. And some of them would pop and fall down. So we had a little more work to do there. We started to see some playfield wear around the mine dropping in. We had 4 different games, and 3 of the 4 had different types of damage all the way around the hole here. And you see it on this side over here, and you see it in here. We also saw damage around this side over here of the playfield hole where the wood was exposed, and it was knocking the clear coat off. And that's from the ball smashing right into the edge of that plywood. It flexes a little when you hit it on the edge, even more so than the corner. And it was breaking the clear, and that's just unacceptable. So we put a mine hole protector on there, made a new protector for it that goes all the way around it, does the job, just what we needed. Now, one of the problems that wasn't a problem, contrary to what all you podcasters might have said and all this kind of stuff, you pinsiders out there, I'm talking to you now, pay attention. This actually, we had 2 toppers almost complete. Only thing we were missing was the metal inserts that held his arms in place to the motor shaft. And we thought, well, let's 3D print some, and we'll put little set screws in them. They'll work for a weekend, right, for an expo? No, both of his arms fell off. So there's this old adage about using 3D printed parts in a pinball machine that you manufacture. Don't. Not a good idea. So I was telling everybody, you gotta make lemonade when life gives you lemons, right? So I would tell people, you can't shoot him anymore, he's unarmed. Yeah, that's bad. So we were also noticing that we were having some inductive sensor inconsistencies. While it's very satisfying to get credit for 6 ramp shots when you only make it once, we saw that wasn't working the way we intended it. And it's equally frustrating on the other side to make the ramp shot. There's nothing worse than pinball than making a shot and not getting credit for it, right? So we immediately began working on solutions with the idea that as the solutions became available and we were able to get parts, then we would kind of fold those in on the assembly line as we were building games and do running changes. Well, then we started having all these problems with our production. Parts availabilities were causing serious delays. We were having difficulty. Everybody sees all around us. There's wanting to hire people. Everybody wants to hire people. No one wants to work anymore. It's kind of a problem there. So there's competition now. A big company opens down the road from you, and they offer a bit more money than what you're paying them, and they all move, and you've trained them, you've spent a lot of time. So we're having difficulty ramping up our production staff. Raw materials, just crazy stuff, steel, cardboard. We can't get boxes for shipping. We can't get cardboard. Doug's dealt with the same guy for 30 years with cardboard boxes. He won't even return his call now because he's just tired of saying, I don't know when the stuff's going to come in. So we're making boxes out of Uline boxes, and taping them together, and we're not going to be deterred, But, wood, they almost ran out of wood for the first time at Churchill Cabinets, like in 25 years that Doug's been there. First time they almost ran out of wood during COVID. It's just crazy. So what we decided to do was to start tackling those difficult issues that we had and use the already downtime to our advantage and give you a better game on the other end of it. Well, when you start doing that, you got to work on this iterative process. You identify a problem, you got to propose and construct and implement some kind of a fix, and not a Band-Aid, an elegant fix, something that Doug would say is slick. That's what you're shooting for. Engineering within constraints, not just, I'll do anything I can to get it out the door right now. It's got to be something that's sound and looks like you planned it that way. It wasn't something that fell in there and stuck to something. Then you got to test, and then when you think you've got it, test just a little bit more. If there's no problems and you haven't introduced any new problems, then you're done, except if you need parts. Then you've got to order those new parts, and now here we go back to, remember, above, the parts are getting difficult to get. So any remaining issues, back to step 1, you start it all over again. And at some point you get enough invested in that now that when your parts come in and you are actually ready to ship, you got to finish fixing this thing first, and that's what we were doing. We're finishing those damn drop targets up. We're going to get them to work. So there's an old adage, the three things you have to weigh when you want something. You got a price, how much, quality, how good, as they say from Oklahoma where I'm from, time to delivery, how long. So how much, how good, how long. We're going to chase perfection here. We have high standards. We don't like compromising. But if you have to compromise, what we're going to do is compromise on the time to deliver. We just can't put something out the door that's not good quality. We're giving you a high-quality game at a great price. And time to delivery, as Doug says, one of his favorite sayings, I've heard it 100 times in 2 years now, our customers will forgive late. They will not forgive wrong. And he says that's been proven over and over again. And I personally am very happy to work for a company that stands on that line because that's what I want to do. I want to get you a good game out there. It's just, it may take a little longer to get that high quality. And we're willing to invest that if you're willing to hold on and wait for it. We're going to get you a good game, I promise. So, there we go. Now I want to show you the quick Sizzle video here that we made for the game.
Welcome to Cactus Canyon, stranger.
All right, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
There's a bad guy out there.
Hey, buddy, you shot my drink.
Why do they always tie me to the tracks?
Thank you for cleaning up Cactus Canyon.
That's on our website if you guys ever want to watch it again or show it to someone else. So I would normally take questions here, but unfortunately I talk too doggone much. Like they say, you can always tell an Okie, but you can't tell him much. So if you'd like to come see myself or Ryan in the booth out there, we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you all for being here. Again, thank those guys from Texas for having us. These guys are great. Thank you, guys.